I hereby call the meeting of the Governance Priorities Committee for the City of Lloydminster to order, and we'll take a moment of silent personal reflection. As a reminder, all members of council are obligated to declare a conflict of interest or a pecuniary interest as per section 133 of the Lloydminster Charter regarding any item on this agenda. Councillor Thorson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to say that I'll be stepping out for item 5.1, vault number 9 communications upgrade as it relates to my employer. Thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing any other notes of concern, we'll move on. I'll remind everyone that this meeting is for discussion and information gathering only. All decisions will occur during council meetings. We thank all of our presenters ahead of time for their time and effort. Moving to the agenda, I'll look to the city manager. I believe he's got some comments.
Yes, Your Worship, we do have an addition to the agenda. An application for provincial disaster recovery program, which I believe a copy was placed on your desks and with the media. We would like this to be added perhaps as right after 5 administration, if you could do it just before 5.1 because our individual that wants to present has to go to another meeting. So I think it'd be helpful if we could put it there or at the beginning of the administrative presentations.
All right. We'll move that to then item 5.1, and everything will just move down by one number from that point on. Thank you, City Manager. Councillor Thorson.
Sorry, just to correct that, then I'll be stepping out for item 5.2. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there any other issues around the agenda that's been presented before us today? If not, I'll look to council for direction. Councilor Baker.
I move we accept the agenda as amended.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconder. Councillor Buckingham. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. So, item number 3 is the approval of the previous minutes. Those minutes were circulated to council and the public. Any questions arising from the minutes? Not seeing any objections, I'll look to council for direction. Councillor Fagan.
I move that the Governance and Priorities Committee minutes dated May 15th be approved, 2017.
Seconder. Councillor Thorson. Call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving on to item number 4. We have 3 public presentations. First one is 4.1, Canadian Union of Postal Workers.
Yes, we have some correspondence, and I'll ask the city clerk to walk through this. There are no public here, I believe, but we've received correspondence.
Please, City Clerk.
Through the city manager to the city council. The first item is a letter or request from the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, CUPW, and they're looking for the city to write to the Minister of Public Services and Procurement in regards to home delivery and the continuation of it in regards to Liberals' recent campaign promises.
All right. Have you had any correspondence from any other municipalities on this matter?
Yes, Your Worship, we have. Most are accepting this as information as postal delivery is a federal matter, and they're not providing letters of support other than they do support home delivery. However, the matter is a federal.
comments or questions, council?
I would totally agree with that as well.
Thank you, Councilor Fagan. Seeing the heads. So if someone would like to, do we need a motion then to, is just received as information then? All right. Action says, so will do, receive it as information. Item number 2 on that list is from the Lloydminster Agricultural Exhibition Association. The city manager, be as the city clerk. Or city manager want to speak to it?
Thank you, Your Worship. This item is presented to us from the Lloydminster Agriculture Exhibition Association, and they are seeking a formal request on 49th Avenue be renamed to Exhibition Drive, and pending the intention to develop a one-way corridor system involving 49th Avenue makes this request even timelier. In their correspondence, they also speak to that our facility should continue to be a focal point for our community. Renaming 49th Avenue to Exhibition Drive enhances the exposure of our grounds. It is recommended that this item be moved forward to the council meeting, and that we invite the Exhibition Association to speak to this matter personally.
All right. Any questions or comments, council? One comment I had relates to the next item, that this had come, the request I understand from the next item. I hate to get ahead of myself, but that this isn't the only request, and that one prior request that we received on 49 or had been sent to city council, and with no response. So it's an area that I don't think, as we look at policy, city manager, I don't believe we have a standing policy today in place.
That's correct, Your Worship. Both letters have been received, giving you one at a time. We recommend that if you're going to discuss this or decide on this, you would do so at a council meeting, but you might want to have a discussion about potential policy going forward.
Councilor Baker, I'm going to look to you for a question. Were you on council when the last naming of 16 Highway, also known as Revolution Drive?
I certainly was.
All right. When did that occur? Can you just enlighten us a little bit, council, approximately?
07, I would guess. Excuse me, if I may, a group of citizens in our community approached City Council about naming Highway 16 Ray Nelson Drive, and Council thought it was most appropriate to honor Mr. Nelson for what he did for our community. And it's sort of if you look around, you got Wayne Gretzky Drive, you got Mark Messier Drive, you got different kind of celebrities throughout the country that name streets after. I guess the one thing that gets a little tricky is that Highway 16, is it 44th Street or is it Ray Nelson Drive? You know, like people that come to town, you got to be very careful how you number and then change to names. People are trying to find addresses, they're not familiar with the city. So in any case, the complaints that I had feedback on, well, what street is this? Even when the sign was there, so you gotta think that one through. But in any case, if it's 49th Avenue, it'll still be 49th Avenue. It may have a sign, but now you got two people want their name on the same street, so it's another challenge, so I don't know. But certainly council of the day and the community, for the most part, seem to be in favor of naming Highway 16, which is part of the Yellow Highway and Ray Nelson Drive.
Thanks, Councilor. Councilor Buckingham.
Thank you, Worship. That's what I was going to say. I think what Ned was just talking about, that the next item, 4.3, doesn't actually specifically say 49th Avenue is their request. It says an avenue or street. I think we're all thinking that because of the location of the Legion, of course. But yeah,
I guess I just
yeah, it doesn't actually say that in their request. It says requesting a street or avenue to be done. So there may not be a conflict there should this decide to go forward.
Okay. All right, so we'll receive that for information and ask, a little direction, I guess, that we receive this information that will come back from administration on the next council meeting for decision. Or whatever we want to refer it as an item to
Well,
policy.
This is a matter that, yeah, we do need to have a discussion, I think, between council and administration on a policy, because when folks do come forward, we are unable to really give them any guidance other than read us a letter and we'll take it to council. So maybe that's the policy, but obviously we're looking for some guidance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we could go back and come back with some ideas with respect to policy, see what other municipalities have been doing, and perhaps provide that information as well, and come back with something perhaps. Don't know whether it would be at the next council meeting or at a future GPC meeting for discussion.
Okay. Councilor Dorsey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just on the subject in general, even if the policy is just that, this will be a decision of council, I'm fine with that just being clear, and then it could follow the same process that we've seen so far, because I don't really have a problem with it at all, because I don't imagine that every group will want a street named after them or something along those lines. So I think it probably could be fine to deal with it like this. Then again, does it open the door? Not that I have a problem with these ones specifically, but does it open the door to every group or every, famous person to have ever been in Lloyd, or every significant member of the community that's ever been here to have an area of town named after them? I guess we got to balance that and figure out where we want to land, because I'm probably somewhere farther to the side that I hope that there's only 3 or 4 that we ever deal with, and then that's the end of it, but that may not be the case. Thanks.
Obviously, what we need is some criteria.
Yes.
I think that is the conversation we can pull together for you and give you some ideas. Because yes, you could have a multitude of people wanting to have their deceased family member named the street, etc. So where do we put those kinds of requests, and how do we approach them? If we had some criteria and guidelines, we could say quite clearly what is acceptable and what's perhaps not.
No, I think Councilor Baker.
Your Worship, it actually goes further than naming streets. It's everything from the Archie Miller Arena to the Russ Robertson Arena to the R.H. Brecko Lake. I wasn't around on council when any of those were named, but we just know who all those people were, but how the decision was made, I guess should be part of that whole, potentially part of that whole discussion.
Yeah. I would agree, and I think that's, we can send some direction into administration if that's, from that perspective, to bring back some more information and do some research on that matter. Okay, we'll receive that as information in for 4.2. For 4.3, up to you again, City Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. 4.3, in September 25th, 2013, Branch 39 of the Royal Canadian Legion had sent a letter to the Mayor Council asking that the street be renamed to identify or honor veterans, which included serving military members, RCMP, their retired members, and their families. They've rewritten this letter as of just May this year and are making the same request. This falls into the same category as the first request on renaming the street. However, they did not identify a specific street or area in their request.
Thank you, City Clerk. I had this letter hand given to me. That's why I had a little bit more knowledge about this one in particular. One of the areas of time, a little time sensitive from the Legion's perspective, they will be hosting the Wounded Warriors Weekend this end of July, and they were hoping that if council was to make a decision that would be able to be done before that, and that a sign would be able to be erected, since we will be hosting well over 100 veterans that are suffering various ailments, so both physical and mental injuries. So 120 is what they're expecting. It would be that's a great honor for those individuals, and certainly paid a sacrifice for all of us to be able to be honored if that opportunity arose. And timing is always a challenge. So I think if we can ask administration to bring it back for the next GPC, we could still catch the July meeting for council. If that's what we so chose, it would be a little tight from that perspective. If not, I think that certainly we could do that. We'll do the best we can, but realize there is time constraints here, and we can't always meet everybody's specific deadlines and just the way a date. Councillor?
Thank you, Worship. I wonder, with the time constraints around this, I'm not against this in any way, shape, or form, but I just don't think it's realistic that it's going to happen between now and then. Is there a mechanism and policy in place where we could have a declared week, a declared day, something like that as a different way with them hosting that event to recognize them, realizing the time constraints that are there?
Yes, we certainly could. It would be up to council, the purview of council and the mayor to declare a week or the time period when they're here. That period is Veterans Day or however you want to name it. You know, I don't have a name, but you
I'm thinking Wounded Warriors Week.
Wounded Warriors Week.
Yeah.
I would recommend that as we go forward here. As some way we can do this.
Yeah.
Like I said, a great way to honor them with the time constraints and with the availability of the things that we have. I think that's our best option at this point.
No, I think that we can certainly propose that to the Legion, to the organizing committee based out of the Legion here, and certainly that can help certainly honor those people that are going to be here. And I think that's the intention, because we're very fortunate that we have veterans, but we don't, I'm aware of, we don't have any actual wounded warriors as they're referred to in our community, but certainly an opportunity to express our appreciation to them for their service. So we'll send that back to administration as well to investigate.
And then we can bring that proclamation to the next council meeting.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Or so for sure for the July council.
For the July council meeting at the latest.
July council
Okay,
meeting,
sure.
and go from there. Okay.
We will invite them as well.
That would
Bring
be
that
great.
proclamation. Okay.
All right.
Good.
Any other comments or questions on that matter? If not, received as information. Moving to item 5 on the agenda. So 5.1 regarding application.
Yes, Your Worship, this is the added item, the provincial disaster. I believe we have a member of our staff here.
Thank you, Your Worship, through City Manager. Our coordinator of emergency management, Ann Danielson, is here to talk about it, but to preface it, we had a major rain event on June 9th. There was flooding occurred throughout the city, and I'll bring Ann up to talk about the process for applying for the provinces to support if there's eligibility for that. So I'll bring up Ann Danielson, please.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Council. Good afternoon, Your Worship and Council. So, as you're aware, we did have a significant rainfall event June 9th, and I have heard from quite a few residents. When we have these types of events, we request residents to fill out disaster tracking forms. They are available online. Because when we go to the province to ask for an application for disaster recovery funding, they want to know the types of damages. So that helps to build our case a little bit. So this disaster tracking form is available online. I've referred residents to it. It's also been put out a public notice as well as on social media, and it'll be in both newspapers this week as well to direct them where to find that. And the form is also available at the front desk at City Hall. So that's been handed out to a few residents as well. Now in Saskatchewan, to apply for their disaster recovery funding, we have 1 month from the time of the incident to apply for that. In both provinces, for Saskatchewan and Alberta, they request that council make a resolution to apply for that disaster recovery assistance, and that accompanies our application to the provinces. Now, individuals, in order for them to make applications to those disaster recovery funding programs for the provinces, they are able to, but unless the city does so first. So really, unless we do that, there is no option for residents to pursue that from the provinces.
All right.
Yes, and sorry, on the information report, so it says that provincial disaster recovery assistance is only available for insurable losses. Just to clarify, that is uninsurable loss. However, if people chose not to get insurance that was readily available, unfortunately, they will not be covered for those losses.
Any
Thank you.
questions?
We'll be bringing forward a resolution to the June 26th council meeting for consideration as well.
Any questions for administration, Councilor Baker?
Thank you, Your Worship. When you look at this chart and the different rainfalls per hour, and we refer to some official, where is that, out at the airport?
So these came from, one was from the Ministry of Agriculture and the other was from Environment Canada.
But where is this station?
And the station is at the airport, and I did
Okay.
call out there and verify that their measurements matched.
I just use an example. I live in the northwest side of the city, and I had 44 millimeters of rain in an hour and 15 minutes. As good as my little plastic. There's people on the south side that have more than that, according to what they've said. So when you're 3 miles away, that doesn't really cut it. In my mind, you're 5 miles away. It could be raining here, and a mile away, it's not raining. So,
And I
no
don't
question. No, I just
Sorry.
not questioning you. I'm just questioning how that system works. If we're going to have a disaster system, maybe we got to figure out how to get an official rain gauges within the city, or people live, not 5 miles to the northwest or 5 kilometers from the southeast side. I think it's important because there can be quite a difference in.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, through Councillor Baker. The numbers are regulated or driven through Environment Canada, which the airport is a certified measurement. These numbers are only used as guideline to measure comparable between events. Obviously, when we would apply to the province would come out and assess the number of claims there are, the number of, or the type of damage that was occurred, and then they would make an assessment based on that. They're not making an assessment based purely on the numbers received.
That's good.
And it's a great point, Councilor Baker, but the challenge that wherever Saskatchewan Agriculture, the recorder is based, that is reported on the area. And that's the same with Environment Canada. Wherever the official Environment Canada rainfall detection equipment is, that's the number they use. It's a general area, and you're absolutely right. Certainly what we're seeing, and I saw that after the damage with the amount of hail that was still laying south of 36 was different than north of 36 and north of 44th. And as we move further north, it changed. But that is the challenge we have with one official recorder. And I don't know if Environment Canada would give the city another station.
I'll give you an example, if I may, Your Worship. At one time, your census were based on federal or provincial census. And people argued with that they were incorrect. And they allowed you to have city census.
Absolutely.
So I'm just saying, there could be quite a difference in a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kilometer difference.
Absolutely.
That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Your Worship, that's something the administration can definitely look at and provide a response back.
Yeah, it would certainly, because of the nature of, our city's not that big, but it is a city, and we do cover a large geographical area, and we do know that highways and pavement does affect rain showers and disbursements, maybe from the north and south end, at least we'd get a little bit of different perspective. Councilor Corson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just had a question around the timelines of these applications afterwards. So assuming that council, provided a resolution to do this at the next council meeting, then there'd be a tight timeline for residents who had damage to apply, or do they have a decent amount of time?
I have to go back and look just because they do differ between provinces, but typically I believe Alberta is about 90 days, and then Saskatchewan is something similar, I would say
Okay.
60 to 90. It is a reasonable amount of time. We give that information out to residents.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for administration on this matter? If not, thank you very much. And we'll look forward to that resolution coming to the next council meeting. Councilor Thorson, thank you. That's the vote for 5.2. Excuse me, we're up to city manager. So 5.2, Vault 9. Application.
Yes, Your Worship. So this is, do we have Karen?
Yep.
Okay. So we have staff here to present on this Vault 9 communication upgrade. A little bit of background. The city maintains 27 kilometers of pipeline, 16 inspection vaults that convey effluent from wastewater treatment plant. The city is looking to reconnect the communication link between Vault 9 and the wastewater treatment plant for the purpose of regulatory reporting and protecting operations and the environment in the event of pipeline disruption or failure. So we have with us, I'll pass this over to Director Kayford, and he will take it from here.
Director.
Thank you to the city manager, Your Worship. Karen Del Rosa, the general manager of Waste Services, is here to present. This is a vital piece of monitoring equipment that we'd like to get fixed. Karen?
Good afternoon, Your Worship, Council. In 2008, the city was... Sorry. Good afternoon, Your Worship and Council. So in 2008, the city was mandated to report the volume of treated effluent being pumped to the river. We installed 2 flow meters, one at Vault 1, which reads the flows going to the waste from the wastewater plant to the river, and one at Vault 9, which reads the volume drawn by the North Minster Irrigation District. In 2011, Vault 1 was flooded, so we lost all communications to the wastewater treatment plant. Vault 1 still continues to give flow readings, but since it is solar powered, we lose communications during the winter months, requiring us to estimate flows. And also the location of Vault 1 is very remote. In the event of a malfunction, it takes a lot of time and effort to respond and do repairs. So we are looking to restore communications from Vault number 9 to the wastewater treatment plant. This will allow us to accurately monitor flows and report to the Water Security Agency. It will also increase our response time, or speed up our response time in the event of a spill or malfunction. We've asked our engineering to provide us with a code, and the estimated cost of the repairs is $61,815, which is $3,150 under budget. Our engineering completed a communications upgrade to the wastewater treatment plant last year. So we see that it is in the city's best interest to award the project to our engineering just for consistency of the product and the service that we're receiving. And in terms of a cost perspective, BAR is also expected to provide us a more cost-effective solution over time and manner.
Questions? Comments? Thank you, General Manager. I had 2 actually. When I read about Vault number 1 and the comments you've had, it not being reliable today, is there additional upgrades required at Vault number 1 as well? We're going to follow the system having number 9 working. We should do something to Vault 1 as well. Has that been looked at by administration?
We haven't looked into that yet, Your Worship. We lose communication to Vault number 1 about 6 to 10 times a year. So right now it's still working and we're still able to estimate the flows. It's just that without Vault number 9, we're not able to monitor any spills or malfunctions. Basically what happens is that we look at the flows at Vault 9, and if the flows drop at Vault 1, and if the flows drop at Vault 9, we know that we have to get there. So eventually I think we'll need to look at upgrading the communications there and probably putting in a permanent utility, but like I mentioned earlier, the location is very remote, so we'll have to look at what the cost is.
Councilor Baker.
Your Worship, stated in the report that a lot of the equipment got damaged due to in-vault flooding.
Yes, sir.
Is it going to be installed somewhere else now?
It will be installed above.
We're not going to do this again?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
we're not. Yeah, it was previously installed within the vault, and now we're installing it above ground with insulation.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Buckingham.
Thank you, Worship. Brings me another question. So I'm going to guess that it's put underground as a security feature as part of that. So now we're going to put it above ground. What's the chances of vandalism, damage, weather problems causing grief to that exterior if we're not protecting it within the vault?
That we haven't looked at, but that's something that we can talk to our engineering about. And the one reason why it was put underground is for weatherproofing. The effluent provides a warm environment for that equipment, and so installing it above ground will need to weatherproof it. But in terms of vandalism, that we haven't seen. These vaults are located in remote areas, and basically it's in a private farmer's field. So we haven't seen that, but that's something that we can talk to our engineering about.
Councillor Pegg.
So on the sole sourcing, does BAR have something proprietary?
No, sir, they don't. The reason why we sole source BAR is that they provided us with a communications upgrade for the wastewater treatment plant last year. So this project will require a tie into that communications. So we figure that it will be in our best interest to make sure that we have a consistent product and we have the communications between the wastewater plant and the vaults is consistent.
Any other questions or comments, Council? So basically, this will be money left over from last year capital budget that's being allocated or was allocated to this project. Is that kind of, and as well as some money this year in 2017?
We budgeted $35,000 last year, and when the codes came back, it was higher than we expected. So we carried over to $35,000 and we asked for another $30,000 for this year.
The quote from BAR at $61,850, is that a firm quote or is that going to be a cost minus 10% variance? Because I know we're under budget right now to what's budgeted, but is that how firm is that quote from BAR? Is that an actual firm quote or is there some variance there potentially?
As far as I know, sir, it's a firm quote, but I can confirm that.
Yeah, I would just like to be sure, as sure as we can be on that number, because I think that it's a form of a letter, but I just, for some reason, I had made the notes plus or minus 10%, and I don't remember if I read that, or I was just wondering if that was the case, so that they're prepared to go to sign an agreement for that number.
That's it.
And your worship, it is plus or minus 10%.
Yeah, so that's going to put us right on the borderline again once with 65,000. We're going to need to almost have them firm that up because you'll be in the same boat again. If we approve it, we've got a budget of 65. It comes back at 66 and change, and it's going to have to come back to council one more time again.
As far as we know, sir, the electrical material and instrumentation is firm for that price. The only variable the site installation and engineering. So if it's going to cost them more hours to do the install and the engineering, I think that's where the plus and minus 10% is. But yeah, we can get a firmer number on that.
Yeah, I personally would like to see a much firmer number if we can, if we're going to award a contract, especially if we've gone sole source, and just leave some things. Councilor Baker?
Thank you, Your Worship. And further to that, I don't know the security on this, if we're going to be above grade, exactly how you're going to do it, but you might as well figure it in now and get it all inclusive if you have to, because it should be protected, the controls above grade. And I'm not sure I got a picture of that yet, but you might as well include it all in your, as Councillor Buckingham had mentioned. You might as well include the whole package.
Absolutely, I agree with that 100%. Any other comments, questions from council? think that gives administration something to work with to bring back.
Your worship, thank you for your comments. We have this scheduled for council decision at the next council meeting. We'll have these items firmed up. Because this was an item that stretched over 2 capital budgets, we thought it was important that council hear about this before we go to a decision-making process, and we'll bring back that data at the next meeting.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Director. And I think that I can appreciate what council was, or the administration was at, because when it came in over budget last year, it does become a 2-year matter. And I think this is a good opportunity. I think we flushed out some good questions, and hopefully that will give us the information to be able to make a decision and move forward on this if that's what council so chooses. Thank you, General Manager. All right, thank you. We're retrieving the good, I think he's out back. Retrieving the good counselor. Help keep a healthy quorum. Welcome back, counselor.
Thanks for having me.
Always our pleasure. All right, I'll look to you, City Manager, for item 5.3, please. Or sorry, yeah, 5.3.
We have before us 5.3, Parkland Fuel Corporation Fast Gas would like to close approximately 0.022 hectares, 0.06 of an acre, as part of the registered road allowance. And we have a document attached, a plan attached, so I'm going to ask, I believe, Director Faber to respond to this.
Thank you, City Manager, through to your worship and council. Today we have a relatively complex road closure development that we wanted to bring to council's attention before we bring it to a council meeting. We have Stephanie McDonald from our planning department here to present, and I would ask Stephanie to come up and give her report. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Council. I prepared a short presentation to provide clarity on the proposed road closure and license of occupation surrounding the Fast Gas Service Station located at 5003 57th Street. Parkland Fuel Corporation has made an application to renovate and add a secondary use to the Fast Gas building.
Stephanie, if you could just pull the mic a little closer. And
Sorry.
go ahead and tip it up a little bit.
Is this better?
Thank you.
Sorry.
No problem.
Currently, the property exists as a non-conforming use, and due to the proposed changes, the application submitted must conform to Land Use Bylaw 5/2016. In order to meet parking requirements outlined in the Land Use Bylaw, the applicant must provide a minimum of 13 parking stalls. The site plan submitted proposes 14 parking stalls. In order to meet these requirements, the applicant has applied to close the area outlined in red, as shown on the screen above. This closure will provide a total of 4 parking stalls, consisting of 1 handicap stall and 3 regular parking stalls. On the west end of the closure, the applicant will be required to provide signage notifying residents that there's a dead end, and now they must exit to the south. In order to fulfill the remaining 10 parking stalls, the applicant has proposed to use the road right-of-way east of the property, and this can be seen on the image above. Due to the existing underground infrastructure, the city requires the applicant to enter into a license of occupation as a condition of the development permit. The license of occupation will also accommodate the new concrete apron surrounding the gas pump island, and as well as the existing signage that exists. Above you can see the site plan. There's a fine line showing the current property. When the road is closed, the applicant will be purchasing the area and then consolidating it to the current property.
Council, questions, comments? Councilor.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Just a question on the proposed site plan. That driveway on the north side, has that been moved further west? My point is that traffic comes in from the north and they turn onto that street and the corner cut. It's quite a corner there. And I'm just wondering if you've moved that driveway further to the west.
Correct.
Your Worship, through Councillor Baker, that driveway has been moved to the west, and it also conforms with the design of the future Highway 17 bypass. So yes, it has been moved to the west.
Thank you very much.
So if I understand this correctly, if what's being proposed is closing the back alley, but there would be no building on that back alley, so the services underneath would still be accessible if required. It would be a parking lot that Fast Gas, I imagine, would want to pave with their, if they went through with the renovation or parking lot group. But bottom line is it would still be accessible to the infrastructure below to the city for repairs if required.
If there are items in the back alley, they will be covered under a registered easement in the back alley portion. On the license of occupation portion, which is the eastern portion, it will simply be that, a lease or a license of occupation. The city has infrastructure in there as well as TELUS. And so the license of occupation allows anyone that has infrastructure in there to go in and do repairs if required.
Any other questions or comments, Council? I believe I know this answer, but I just want to reconfirm it. So this will likely come back to council if that's where we direct it to at a council meeting. There would be a reading and a first reading of the bylaw, and anyone would have the opportunity to comment that lives in that neighborhood, because we know adjacent parcel B on the colored photo shows the neighbor immediately to the west, but there's other neighbors on that back alley that I'd certainly want to make sure that they fully understood what was being proposed here and the implications they would have to their homes, because once it's closed, that it won't be reopened. I think that, I know it's been out for public discussion, if I understand it correctly, administration, there's been some comments, but I think just want to make sure that that opportunity is there, that people, they see this today or hear about it at a future council meeting, that they have that opportunity to comment on it before it actually happens. It will go to a bylaw for 3 readings, correct?
Your Worship, because we were worried about that, we have sent and contacted all the neighborhood people and the people surrounding. That data will be in the report. And we've also did some internal contacts, including with the fire department for access to the back alley. And we didn't have, we had no negative responses.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council.
Thank you.
And this will come to the next council week from today.
A week from today, all right. Moving on then to item number 5.4.
Yes, Your Worship, the Finance Department has prepared a first quarter capital status update for our council review and discussion and feedback, and I'll turn it over to Director Buchan to provide that update.
through your worship to council. This is our first quarter capital project list summary in detail for your information and an opportunity to discuss, provide any feedback, and have any questions or comments to be shared. This is the first quarter as mentioned, so this is relevant to March 31st, 2017. At that point, the total lot sale revenue in the first quarter was $90,000. City building permits that have continued during the first quarter. There are 45 permits with a total construction value of $9.3 million, compared to 70 permits at the end of the first quarter of 2016, with a total construction value of approximately $13 million. To date, approximately 20 projects were started and identified within the first quarter. 110 projects have been identified that are projected to begin within the second quarter. And as of the end of March, there were no council projects. And just as an update, we will be providing our second quarter capital update in August. There was a delay in preparing the first quarter update, just a delay in getting the information together and accompanied by the pressures from the year-end audit. So we will be seeing this coming forward in a more timely manner moving forward.
Thank you, Director. Any questions or comments, Councilor?
Just a quick question, thank you, Your Worship. My only question is on the estimated completion date. There's several that have 0 Jan. Are those ones where there wasn't anything entered in them?
That's correct.
Okay. Which is fine, just to know what I'm looking at to make sure we didn't miss a January deadline, or it's not really next January, it's just there's nothing entered, so that's the default.
That's correct.
Thank you.
There's actually several pages behind the first page that we see in the actual report from the regarding capital and budget items for this year. I had just one or two questions, if I may. I believe that I'm looking at it's second page under the capital budget combined under land development. Capital Community Planning Land Corp business case. Is that, when will we expect to see that, Director Smith? I guess would be your...
Yeah, that project was put into the capital budget last year to anticipate looking at how that division will be moving forward, and that's something we'll consider once our strategic planning process has been completed and we set priorities.
Okay, and the same with a lot of those items, I would imagine that's going to be determined from that perspective.
There was another project that we're looking to reallocate funds to another high priority project that will be coming to council in the near future around technology. But other than that, from a land division perspective, we just have our asphalt replacement programs or asphalt programs that are from a contract obligation, as well as a landscaping project that we're looking at executing this year.
Okay.
And just as an FYI, April was a pretty positive month from a lot sale perspective, so that number will be going up on the next report.
So that's very good to hear. We'll look forward to the August report on a lot of those items. One of the other areas I had a couple other questions here, just trying to find my notes on the paperwork. I believe it was to do with the swimming pool. The diving board, I believe, was a fairly large capital item that I was not expecting, but certainly just need a little understanding about it. I think it's $16,000. I'm not sure if you can comment on that.
Thank you, Your Worship. That's something I'd have to get additional information.
Okay, if you so. Okay. And then if I look, just to understand, this was to do with the wireless lift station sewer, and I guess that'd be different from what we just discussed on the stormwater, but there was two different items listed under, one for $6,000, one for $15,000. Are we doing two different items, or by chance was the last page of the budget, the capital budget is where I found it, as a WR department?
Thank you, Your Worship. To the city manager, Your Worship, and council. It's two separate projects. One is the lift station at the stormwater pond that pumps from into the lake at Buttonwood Park. We have a lift station there.
Okay.
And the other one is the lift station at the Golf and Curling Center.
Okay.
Automation there.
Okay. Okay. The other one that I know we discussed it at the city, and I just found it was interesting when it was listed, and I think we just dealt with it in the last council meeting, was the AMI water meter reads. Ended up coming under information services, but rather than the water department, but was that just the way it showed up here in the capital budget?
That's correct. Just because it's technology, so it falls under them. The water department is administrating the work, Your Worship.
Okay, so it's a budgetary up the budget numbers. Okay. Okay. So I guess Director Stang, I'll try and find that particular line, but
Yeah, I found it, Your Worship, and
Okay.
I'll get an answer for you.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. 'Cause
The notes say that they're using the backup diamond board, but
Yeah, that's-
I'll dig into it a little bit.
Okay, that would be appreciated. Any other questions from the capital budget for?
Sorry, just with the OTS countertop replacements, how old are those filter tops? That's a fairly large item, 20,000.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, through Councilor Bruno. That item has been on the capital list for a few years now. We have an agreement with the OTS Society. One of the items that needs to be looked at is the countertop down there. There's pieces of arborite coming off. It's in need of repair, and that's something that they had looked at over the last couple of years, and thought it was high priority enough to keep it in this year's capital.
Okay.
Any other questions? Not seeing any? We'll receive that as information and move on to the next item. Now we'll put us at 5.5, asset management roadmap.
Yes, again, this is a matter for finance, and I'll turn it over to Director to report.
Thank you, City Manager, through to Your Worship and Council. We're presenting the asset management roadmap for review, discussion, and feedback. This was developed to provide Council with an overview for implementing this program. Asset management is critical to effectively planning, maintaining, and operating municipal infrastructure on both short-term and long-term basis. So asset management is the process of managing a local government's capital asset costs effectively, and involves analyzing the life cycle and capacity of each asset and developing information on maintenance requirements, service levels, and new asset needs. Why is this important? The recent federal gas tax agreement includes requirements for local governments to demonstrate strengthened asset management capacity and report in the future on progress made in improving local government asset management. It's critical to effectively planning, maintaining, and operating municipal infrastructure, both on a short-term and long-term basis. This projects full life cycle costs, level of services, risks, and future demands, which assists municipalities to make informed decisions and improve data management and the evaluation of return on investments. The ongoing steady state replacement of capital assets over long periods of time is a best practice and is key to achieving the lowest life cycle costs over the asset life. If local government decides not to implement these practices, it risks deteriorating assets, poorly performing assets, public health and safety liability, loss of financial and economic viability, and ultimately declining public confidence in the local government. Successes that we've had through the implementation of this asset management roadmap to date included in 2016, the approval of the amortization and useful life policy, which was established to detail useful lives for each asset to ensure depreciation expenses accurately reflect the annual cost of the city's asset base. We've also been successful in council approving a capital asset reserve through the capital asset replacement policy, which was created to establish funding for future capital asset acquisitions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Any questions or comments? Director, I'll kick it off. Or Councilor?
Oh, I was going to say, I think it's a great plan. I'd like to see it fast-tracked if possible. But yeah, I think we're certainly on the right track, and it's going to be a really good gauge for just a number of different things. So it's a wonderful tool.
Mr. Director, the one comment I had was to reestablish an asset management committee in 2017. Has that actually commenced? Are we underway?
I believe the first meeting will be held this week.
I guess moving on, I was looking at the goals, and I agree with Councilor Bagman. I'd love to see this moved a lot further ahead faster, but I realize resources. With the new Diamond software, WorkTech, and several other attachments coming, are we going to be able to see costs truly drilled right down to every piece of equipment, block of street? Is that how significant this will be? So we can say that if a particular block of street is costing us so much money for maintenance, we realize that we have a water main problem. It's pretty easy to see after 3 breaks, but will we be able to see that on the books?
Thank you, Your Worship. That is the intention. It will take some time to prepare the information to get into that system. There will be a lot of collaboration amongst the different departments. So getting to that point, we will get there. It will just take some time. And with respect to the fast tracking, one thing that our finance department is currently working on is securing proposals to submit for the FCM grant funding opportunity, which would certainly provide some additional needed resources which will assist us in fast tracking this a little bit. So that will also be moving forward in the future as well.
Excellent. You kind of read my mind, because I attended a workshop at FCM in Ottawa a couple weeks ago, and that was quite a discussion piece, and certainly there's some money available, significant piles, but certainly money available that we can apply for, and that's excellent. Thank you for administration taking the lead on that to pursue that opportunity. Councilor Torson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just on his question with regards to Diamond and WorkTech, do the two programs communicate with each other, or are they going to be exclusive from one another?
No, they communicate. The 3 pieces of software that we have, they actually all interconnect. So the budgeting tool, the WorkTech piece, and also Diamond.
Okay.
And it's all in real time as well.
Oh, right on. That's ideal. Thanks.
Councilor Baker.
Thank you, Your Worship. Lisa, I see you got a really good clause in here. It's called Finance Firms Work on Creating a Reserve Policy for future capital asset, which is, excuse me, is a priority of the city to set aside dedicated fund for capital asset projects. They'd be dedicated, like, once we set a priority list through the process with administration, whatever number 1 to number 400 is, we would have individual, are you thinking individual reserve accounts for the top 25, or how are you thinking that?
The way we've established it is we have one reserve account currently for the depreciation, which will go into for the replacement. And when we compiled the research, that was actually best practice, especially where we're starting from, in the essence that we don't have a substantial amount of reserves currently. That way you can pool that depreciation, and once the priorities are established through your strategic planning and identified from council, we're able to build up and start allocating those reserves for your priority projects.
But say just pick one, our old favorite, the library. It's been kicking around for years, you know. What would you do with the reserve for a library? How would that be dealt with?
That will come through strategic planning. So if that's identified as a priority, it's certainly something that we can look at setting a dedicated reserve for. An example is the Culture and Science Center. That does have a dedicated reserve currently that was set up through the previous council.
That'd be for the mayor over a certain limit or something, or how do you do that?
There's a variety of options that administration can
Okay.
compile and then present for council.
Well, that's good to see in there, so that.
Councilor Torres?
Thank you, Your Worship. Although this is kind of speculation, but Director Buchan, do you believe that once this is all set up and ready to go, that you're going to need dedicated resources, like people whose job it is specifically for asset management? Is that going to be like a subdivision? Just because there is a significant amount of regular data entry, even ongoing, and to manage the entire system and look for anomalies and things like that. Is that something that maybe part of the vision even when this whole process started?
That's correct. It is part of the vision. Previously, it was done basically off the side of people's desks. So within our finance area, we do have dedicated resources. We have one FTE, we have a part-time FTE, and then one of our managers, the capital asset manager, oversees that process. But as it's housed in finance currently, as it grows and develops, because of the integration with all of the other departments and the requirements for different condition assessments, that there is different knowledge bases, I think it's something that you could potentially see evolve once this legwork is done and the system's up and running.
Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? I think this is, as we mentioned before, I think this is an excellent program because it gives both administration and council some view of where we need to go as a city. And certainly in discussions I've had with people saying, well, what is it going to cost? Now we will be able to truly tell people what a block of street costs to maintain on an average basis, where that money is being spent every day and on an annual basis going forward, as well as the budget, because I think that's a challenge that we're going to face over this council's term, the next 3.5 years, is allocating the dollars to the best possible resources that we can to ensure that the community continues to move forward in a reasonable fashion and give administration the tools they need to maintain the city. Thank you, Director. Moving to item 5.5, City Manager. Sorry, 5.6.
The new 5.6.
The new 5.6.
Okay, this is the adoption of a community vehicle injury reduction safety program called Vision Zero, and I'll turn this over to Director Snee.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship, through City Manager. This is a direct result of a session that Your Worship attended at February caucus meeting. You had asked administration to have a look at Vision Zero. It was a presentation done, I believe, by the City of Edmonton. General Manager of Public Safety attended one of these sessions in, I believe, Saskatoon, and has brought some information that he's going to share with Council now. So I'll pass it over to General Manager of Public Safety / City Clerk, Mr. Melville.
Thank you, Director. Through the City Manager to Council. The Vision Zero is an adoption of a community vehicle injury reduction program. On April 11th, 2017, I had the pleasure of attending a meeting in Saskatoon in which the Vision Zero program was discussed. During this meeting, Mr. Jeff Cavallo, the Chief Operations Officer of ATS Traffic and the lead Vision Zero applicant, presented details of this program. Vision Zero is so named because the ultimate goal is no fatalities, no serious injuries through road traffic collisions, and is based on a successful program launched in Sweden in 2007. Vision Zero maintains that no loss of life is acceptable and that where humans fail, the road systems should not. The Vision Zero is a new approach to traffic safety which moves away from the traditional safety messages which focuses on driver responsibilities and behaviors. Vision Zero places the responsibilities firmly within the purview of the road system design, recognizing that humans make mistakes. These types of initiatives have seen widespread successes in several communities in Canada, and most notably the City of Edmonton. And I recently just pulled this quote off the Vision Zero site for Edmonton, which illustrates their success. In 2006, there were 8,246 people injured and killed in collisions on Edmonton streets, The city responded by creating the first municipal office of traffic safety in North America that year. And in spite of the population growth since then, in 2015 there were 3,837 people killed or injured, and a decrease of 53.5%. During this Saskatoon meeting, the program's main advocate indicated that he would be pleased to come to Lloydminster and provide an in-depth presentation on this program and its benefits to council and administration, and that's what we're recommending we move forward with today.
Thank you, General Manager. City Clerk. Any questions or comments, Council?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to bring them up and to have a presentation done. And when you see statistics like that, that's pretty impressive. And I would certainly agree with Mr. Canelli coming up.
This is Tony. Hold on, did he used to be in our city?
No, he's with Alberta Traffic ATS.
Oh, okay.
So I can speak to that just a little bit, his background. He actually lost a family member, and the company business is ATS is Alberta Traffic Supply, I believe, is the long term. And they, as a family, took it upon themselves, even though they sell traffic signs and they're involved in municipal and provincial and federal governments with signs, they felt this was a worthy venture on their family's part in recognition of the family member they lost, if I understood the facts correctly, and underwrite this on their own. This is where their business is giving back and helps spearhead this. Certainly you could say there could be more signage bought and things like that, it certainly could be, but I believe that the intent was really there from the heart, and that's what caught my eye, was that it was something that he felt he could make a difference. And certainly we've just dealt with photo radar, that issue among our council. The community, I think, is certainly genuinely open to reducing accidents, and if we can come up with an initiative within reason that works, and by the demonstration of Doug's comments from Edmonton, it's had a significant impact with the population growing and the numbers going down. That's the kind of numbers I think we all like to see from that perspective. So I certainly think I would support having him come give us a presentation, look at things from his perspective and what he can offer out, and then we come back to council administration for further work. Councilor Forrest.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I agree across the table, and I think the idea has merit. I just have one question, and maybe I missed this somewhere, but what types of things would the audit identify? Just generally speaking, what types of things would you try to do, or what would come of this? Like specific areas that could be of significance where danger could have potential, or I just missed that.
So within the program, there is a road safety audit. That road safety audit would likely look at areas of collisions, areas of concern, and then it would look at opportunities to reduce that through engineering controls. As the program identifies, everybody makes mistakes, so the idea is to reduce the opportunity for those mistakes. The implementation of the program is based on what your comfort level is financially, so it's not saying that you should go out and redo your entire streets. It's saying that once you identify areas, then through your normal budgeting process, you would provide those as priorities.
Okay.
Councilor Baker.
Well, thank you. When I first read this, it was kind of a broad brushed thing that I couldn't get my head wrapped around it. I understand the safety side, but the program itself, I don't know how long it is and who's attending, but I'd like to see the program, and then I could probably understand it better. I don't know if it's 3 days long or an hour long or.
So once the presentation is made, then the groups will be identified, stakeholder groups will be identified, council being one of those stakeholder groups. The program itself is not a start today and end in 3 days. The program is an ongoing cycle program. And I do have some more literature on it. I'm certainly not the best, Mr. Cabela would be the best advocate for this program, and that's why we're recommending that we bring him forward so he can answer all those in-depth questions.
I believe we're all in favor of safety, but just how does this work? I haven't gotten
Well, I think Council Baker, and I think you've hit a good point, and I think that's where the first step is to get the presentation, get a better understanding, because you've got a little bit of my interpretation, the general manager's interpretation from his meeting.
Yeah,
There's
that's
a really nice book here that I haven't even had a chance to get through completely yet. So there's a lot of information that, from that perspective, I think it would be a good start to see where we could potentially go as a city and to make safety.
Bring it on.
That's what we'd like to do. So, any other questions? If not, I believe administration set the direction that where we want to go with that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, City General Manager, City Clerk, on that item. Back to the City Manager for 5.7, Northwest Drainage.
Yes, Your Worship. The city is seeking grant funding under the Alberta Provincial Government's Community Resilience Program to fund upgrades to the Northwest Drainage Channel. My understanding that it looks we may be approved for this, but nothing has been publicly announced yet. So until it's publicly announced, we can't say that we for sure have the funding. But we are certainly wanting to present to council a proposal here so that you're aware of it. And when funding is announced, if we're successful, we'll go forward.
Excellent. All right.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Our chief executive engineer will be coming up to give us some overview of what the project is. The grant was applied for after last year's significant rain events. This system caused quite an extensive amount of issues for the city last year. The event this year, I think it managed much better, but we still had some concerning spots throughout the Northwest Channel. So I will call up Chief Executive Engineer Terry Burton. He can give us an overview of what the Northeast Channel is consistent of.
Welcome, Chief Executive Engineer.
Okay, thank you, Worship, Council. As noted, this is the Northwest Drainage Channel. I'll just bring up the map here so we can adequately describe what that system actually is. The Northwest Drainage Channel really starts on the very west side of the city over by Princess Auto and Peavey Mart. There is a lagoon or our store management pond, not lagoon, sorry. Caught myself there. And it takes water from the County Vermilion River at that point and flows along in reality, this is probably a natural drainage system that was there forever until the city started building around it. And we just kept the location very similar to the natural side of things. So it follows from that point to just south of the operations center, and it flows ultimately through the Husky Husky refinery, and as such through R.H. Breckle Lake, and then crosses outside the city limits over by Diamond 7 meets. From there, it goes through our Britannia, and then through a little portion of the city just north of landfill, and then into the Neely Evans system. Last year, of course, everybody's relating a little bit of the storm events from July of last year. This system had significant flooding issues, and as such, that's why we put it as a priority for this type of an application. Specifically, everybody's seen the effects that our R.H. Breckle Lake provided, where it backed up over the road and over the highway, so quite significant impacts there. But also through the Husky refinery side of things too, it did some pretty good impacts to that facility as well. The application or this funding opportunity for us will provide up to 90% funding, and 10% is of course our contribution. In total, the high-level cost estimate is about $3 million for the upgrades of this system, which of course would be about a $300,000 contribution from the city itself, if successful. The main things that we're trying to identify, or that we're recognizing to be upgraded, is of course the pipe network that crosses Highway 17 from R.H. Breckle Lake. That of course will increase the capacity, so we won't have that backing up and that flooding capacity there. The piping network just west of that as well, upstream. So we got 1, 2, 3 culverts crossing before we even get to the Husky refinery, and those need to be upgraded as well as part of our storm master plan. And basically, there's a couple other types within the refinery area as well that could be included in this program based on budget though. But the main ones definitely is the Highway 17 crossing, the other 2 or 3 upgrades that are required just west of that, and one of them is crossing, of course, CP rail, which is going to be a little bit trickier. It's not too deep, and of course with CP involved as well. Yeah, this map shows all the main criteria. The Diamond 7 one, of course, is in Saskatchewan side, and that would need to be upgraded, but that would be something that we would take on fully 100%, because of course this is an Alberta grant. Unfortunately, we can't do it across citywide. But I think that's about it. If there's any questions, I can definitely take them.
I guess my first question that I have is, was the government of Saskatchewan, there's no grant application or format that they offered to help relieve flooding?
At this point in time, we're not aware of any, but we're actively pursuing those interests as much as possible.
Excellent, that's the best news you can give us. Council, any questions? Comments, Councilor Baker?
Thank you, Richard. As we all know, stormwater is a big issue. As the city grows and as we pave and do certain things, we create more runoff as a municipality. And over the years, I've been told, like many council members, that we're liable for our water that runs into other jurisdictions. Example, the southeast, there's about, I don't know how many farmlands we have to go over before we get to the Battle River or wherever that water's going to go. I believe it's the Battle River. And we have legal obligations. When we go to the northwest through the Neely Lake system, we have legal obligations outside of our own jurisdiction. Did I have that correct?
Yeah, typically on stormwater and how it relates to the provincial side of things, we are regulated to making sure that we do not flow out any more than pre-development flows. If we go to pre-development flows, we get into a scenario where we are within the Edmonds, where we're actually operating a complex, in that we can upscale our flows, but the complex is what's regulating it throughout there and ultimately into the Big Gully system. But on the south area, just like you brought forward, yes, we would be regulated back to pre-development flows. So yeah, for sure.
Okay, I guess, what about people that drain on us from the west, that pour into our system? What legal obligation have they got to us?
They're bound by the same too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as it develops to the west, obviously there's more runoff water, or could be more runoff water produced that would end up, or could end up in our system. Does that mean there's a legal obligation financially or by others, or is it all on our back?
I think that becomes more of a regionalization type discussion and more cooperative type discussion on really what that impact is and what their systems are experiencing. Specifically on the Northwest Drainage Channel, there's that one spike that comes off to the northwest there from just behind, from 75th Avenue. We have a drainage area that comes out of the County Vermilion River and it crosses the CN tracks just west of 75th Avenue. We haven't upsized or we haven't touched that culvert in numerous years, and that is controlling that flow into our system at this point in time. But as development definitely does happen, that will have to be relooked at and really define what flow we actually take or what we can take, and where they'll have to be able to control their output as well.
Yeah, I think it's a big regional plan that's required, because we've had flooding at the refinery and we've had lots of backup issues, and the question is it all caused by water that was generated within the city, or is it, I think we have to look at that.
Your Worship, through Councilor Baker, part of the issue is there's restricted flow through those areas, which backs up the amount of water. So when you get a large rainfall and there's large pavement projects or development going on within the city, i.e. our PD Mart development, as well as the Brevin development to the south, has increased the amount of water that's going to flow through there. There is obvious development out in the county, but when you look at it from a non-pervious surface pavement and those types of things, they're not as high as what you would see here in the city. So what we're seeing is an issue in the amount of capacity that can flow through the channel in specific points along there, which is what our chief executive engineer has pointed out in the areas of major concern. So it's not allowing the amount of flow we need to move through those areas.
Good, thank you.
Councilor Monroe.
So you said there will need to be upgrades by the Diamond 7.
Yeah, I'm anticipating, as based on our master plan, it does recommend a upgrade needed for the 67th Street crossing.
Will that be done simultaneously with these upgrades?
I would expect that we'd be looking at the design simultaneously with this, and it's just a matter of budgeting and construction.
Do you have a price point or budget that you're expecting?
We're in the very preliminary stages. First step is, of course, to get this grant, and the next step will be getting into the engineering side of things and design.
Because if we didn't go ahead with that at this current moment, it wouldn't really, everything else would just back up, right? Because it just needs to flow. So it wouldn't really do any benefit of doing all these other upgrades without doing that as well.
The best thing is to start downstream, work your way up.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's what you're trying to bring forward there, Councilor.
Yeah.
No, ideally, like last year we had that flooding or that impact to the storm system crossing 40th Avenue just north of the landfill. It was an emergency fix. That's really our most downstream point. The rest of it is in the Edmonds system, which of course is all through our control structure and everything else. So we've got that one done. Diamond 7 would be the next ideally, and then from there into this potential grant opportunity that we have.
Would we be looking at, and I know with being optimistic, grant does come forward, we're able to move forward. The construction deadline that's been laid out for activity is looking at October. Are we looking at a boring, or are we looking at actually digging and closing potential roads? And this is just forward thinking, because with the size of culvert that we're looking at installing, a good size, I'm just kind of curious what we can expect for issues at that time, because we've got either going to be frozen or hopefully not frozen, depending on which side of the line you want to be on.
Yeah, based on what we know as per the grant today, there's some expectations of that being done by, I think it was March of 2018, or funding or finances in by March of 2018 as a potential. For me personally, I'm looking for them to give us approval to extend that a little bit, give us a little bit of breathing room, because we are very tight as you bring forward to your worship.
That's an extremely tight schedule.
Yeah, as for constructability, it really comes down to the complexity of the infrastructure. Like Highway 17, I don't expect to open cut that because we got way too much traffic for that. So I definitely see that as a boring opportunity. Whereas some of the other ones, it will be open cut. When you get into CP rail again, then you're probably into more boring again, right? So it really depends on where we are and what parts. 67th Street, again, looking at traffic volumes, there's a possibility that we close it down for a couple days because traffic's on there, but not to anywhere near Highway 17. Sure.
No, absolutely. So I guess one comes with the other. We know the good news, and immediately I think we need to respond with that. And we will need to ask for an extension simply due to the construction season that we all know doesn't exist, especially when you're trying to move with the frozen dirt, because I think there's some cuts required for channel banks and things like that. So we want to try and do a nice job of it. You don't want it so frozen that we're taking out lumps and clumps.
Correct.
Your Worship, just one further comment in regards to legality. The city's been working with the Water Security Agency and the landowners along the Neely Edmonds complex for quite some time, and we have 98% of those easements secured from the city of Lloydminster out to Big Gully. So that's something we're hoping to finalize here over the next 6 months to a year.
Excellent. Councilor Forrest.
Thank you, Your Worship. Although I'm pretty confident I know the answer to these questions, but maybe just for the public's knowledge and everything. So the funds that we would be using for this are ones that were raised through our new stormwater management fee, correct? Or more or less in principle, that's why we started it?
I would expect that there'll be some of that funding would come out of there for sure, because it is identified for that purpose only. Yeah. Sure.
And then, assuming we do receive this grant, would the stormwater management fee and the money set aside for this particular principle, would that have helped us land grant funding, or would that not really make a difference in their consideration?
I don't, as part of the application process, it really kind of outlays what the program is and the dollar amounts. It doesn't really provide an aspect of whether we have the matching dollars to, like, to the T. It does ask for aspirations that we have the money available.
Okay, and then the other question is just, it's barely a question, but this is really just a drop in the bucket of the overall requirements for our stormwater management because of old pipes in the ground all over the city and things like that, correct?
This is one of, if I remember right, when they did the master plan presentation, it's probably one of 8 or 10 systems that need to be upgraded throughout the city itself. This is just upgrading our current systems to meet the storm demands that we're seeing more and more.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, Council? Thank you, Chief Executive Engineer, for that report. And I'll look forward to waiting patiently on the news from our provincial friends. That, I believe, takes us to item number 6 on the agenda, governance and priority matters. And I'll look to City Manager for 6.1.
Yes, Your Worship, contract extension, the AMSC Energy Program, I have Kurt Morrison will be presenting on this.
Thank you very much, City Manager, through to Your Worship and Council. The City Administration was approached by the MSC to determine if we had an appetite to enter into an aggregated supply request for proposals. Our current contract for electrical and gas services expires in the end of 2018. They're suggesting that based on current market conditions, that timing is optimal to go to the market to get some pricing to extend those contracts. And so on the electrical supply contract, they're proposing an extension to the end of 2020. On the gas supply contract, proposing an extension to the end of 2022. It is anticipated, based on current indicative pricing, that we would realize an annual savings of $236,000 by implementing this process. And so by the end of June, so for the next, if we decided to entertain this option, we would need a motion of council to enter into the aggregated supply RFP. Once we've made that decision to enter into the RFP, we would be locked into extending the contract.
Councilor Thorson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question. Are we already using AMSC?
Yeah, that's correct. We're
Okay.
currently using the AMSC.
Perfect. Yeah, and I guess that kind of knocks my other question out. So then the term savings, when it gives us that, that's just their locked-in rate versus, like, how are we calculating just roughly the term savings?
That is based on their best guess of where pricing will come in if they were to do a RFP right now versus existing pricing. And so certainly what that number would be predetermined, and we would there would be an upset limit. So in terms of risk of doing this proposal, that number would be set, and that we would ensure that the number is lower than our existing proposal. But once we make the decision to enter into the aggregated supply, in essence, the opportunity to get better pricing is by pooling all of our energy consumption with the other municipalities that will become part of the aggregated supply contract, and therefore by having greater amount of demand, we would, in theory, receive lower pricing.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, Council?
Just a reminder that natural gas went, I think, around 12 cents a gigajoule here a few years ago, so pretty good deal.
You're absolutely right. Actually, I think in Wainwright it was 17.
What was it, 17?
$17 a gigajoule.
Sorry, I thought
When
it
they
was-
were on the spot market, and that's not that many years ago, it seems. So certainly the energy industry is sort of in flux a little bit, because you know the price of oil affects our community, but certainly power is one that concerns me a great deal, because where will we be going for the price of power going forward? And I think that in many cases, we know using volume buying tends to usually result in a better pricing. I think that well, it's served us well so far. I believe to go out on a loan versus working with the other municipalities through the AMSC. I'm feeling that we're likely in pretty good hands, because their programs have been geared to certainly try and save money for the municipalities, and we are a member municipalities, so from that perspective. Any other thoughts or questions regarding this? I think administration's got an idea of what council's thinking. Send you back onto the trail of the next step to that process.
This will be coming forward next.
Yeah, so we will bring this forward to the next council meeting for discussion, debate, and decision.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to item 6.2, City Manager.
Yes, Your Worship. We have two items here, 6.2 and 6.3, speed limit in the urban area and truck dangerous goods routes. And I'm going to ask Director Stang to speak to both of those simultaneously or together.
Right.
Thank you, City Manager, through Your Worship, or thank you, Your Worship, through City Manager. The city's in the process of updating our new traffic bylaw. We have a rough draft put together. Some of the major items that we discussed as administration that we wanted to put in front of council are A, our truck routes, B, dangerous goods routes through the city, and C, speed limits within the municipality. I've asked Terry Burton, our Chief Executive Engineer, having Marvel today, Chief Executive Engineer, to come in, just give a real high-level overview of those three items. And then essentially what we're looking for is a roundtable discussion on the items and get an understanding of council's appetite for looking at some of these initiatives so we can develop the traffic bylaw.
Thank you. Welcome back.
You betcha. Thank you, Worship and Council. The first one is on speed zones, or speed limits within the city. As Director Don or Stang brought forward, these are some of the pieces of the new traffic bylaw that we're working on. And these are some of our recommendations that we had based on our transportation master plan as well, and as what currently exists today. What we're bringing forward today is the ideology is with numerous discussion points that we get back from the public side of things, feedback, speeding, all that kind of stuff like that. Most of those concerns are enforcement based, but other municipalities have been testing the initiative of going down to 40 in the residential areas. And that's what we're bringing forward here for discussion is that ideology of that principle or that try or whatever, right? Just to see what the flavor for the community is.
That's Baker.
Well, Your Worship, when I got to this one, I looked back to your vision, what do you call it?
Vision Zero.
Yeah.
Vision Zero, and I thought, isn't that part and parcel of would that be part and parcel of the whole thing? Or?
Yeah, that was one of the pieces that I should have made reference to, but that definitely is some of the principles involved in that Vision Zero side of things. It's not necessarily the speed side of it, but it's those potential impacts. I think that's what Doug brought forward in his little introductory thing there for that, so yeah.
It doesn't mention it here, if I can, but again, I don't remember exactly Vision Zero, but communities that have moved from 50 to 40 they went to 40 across school zones and everything. Have you experienced that in some of the research you've done, or are they still leaving school zones alone at 30 after dropping it to 40? Because that was part of
The feedback that we got, schools don't slow down to 30.
Okay.
It's just a generalistic approach to all the residential zones from 50 to 40.
Okay. Councilor Beckman.
Thank you, Worship. This one is interesting. So, for example, if it was the public's purview to drop it down to 40, that's residential. We're talking strictly residential limits, correct?
We're strictly talking residential. All the rest of the ones, as per the map that's enclosed with the information report, those are all dealing with our collectors and our arteries, where we'll have 60 zones, 80 zones, for the most part. I think that's what it is, yeah.
Yeah, when I was reading through this, I actually had a long conversation with a concerned citizen about speed limits just last week. But theirs is more on the highway on 17 North, where it goes 60, 80, 100, right in a regular rate. There have been a lot of near misses there, so I didn't know how to answer him because I'm not sure whose jurisdiction that is, being a provincial highway as it goes that way, but there are numerous concerns on that 17 North. I've been in a few of those crashes there too. So just with sign placement and so on and so forth. You can see the 100 people are hitting 100 before they're going across 67. So just a concern that was brought forward, which I thought was timely in this, that maybe ask the question of administration, where is that legality? Who has the jurisdiction to make those signs move a few feet either way?
For that one, all signage or all speeds within the municipality we're in control of, except Highway 17 and Highway 16 on the Saskatchewan side. We have to make recommendations to our Saskatchewan ministry, and they approve it, they gazette it because of the provincial highway status side. But we can still make recommendations for that to happen, and just an extra step in the processing is what we're trying to bring forward.
I did answer the question right when he asked me. That was my understanding of it as well, so.
Yeah.
Good, thanks.
What communities can we use in Alberta and Saskatchewan as a model if people ask us, well, where else does this work? Is there any other cities, towns in Alberta or Saskatchewan that are down to 40 kilometers an hour in the residential area?
I'll pass this one off to City Clerk Doug Barrow.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, there's two that I can think of off the top of my head right now. Saskatoon has recently done some trials in some neighborhoods, as well as Edmonton has done some as well. Calgary has done some, but I'm not sure what the results are. I think all the trials are sort of ongoing to see how the neighborhoods are reacting and what the overall long-term reduction in injury and accidents are.
Thank you. Councilor Monroe.
I have a feeling for this was even brought to the council meeting that it might be beneficial to get our Vision Zero training to come in and talk to us about different initiatives. That possibly this is to get all that information. Maybe speed reduction isn't the way to go. Maybe there's other ways, or maybe they recommend speed reduction. Just have that education so that we can make an educated decision.
Councilor Forrest.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, it's kind of the same logic I was thinking is if we do at least have a presentation on this Vision Zero and see what the steps look like in a little more detail, the results of that could point us in this direction, and it may be from more of a unbiased third party who's looking at potential ways to reduce probability of injury, reduce accidents, things like that, and promote overall safety. Just off the top of my head, when I look at this, I think, is 40 kilometers, the right speed? Is 50 too fast? I don't know. I couldn't honestly tell you the prevalence of, accidents within residential areas in Leominster. Is it mostly on commercial streets and in our major arteries kind of thing is where the accidents are happening, or is there significant in residential? I don't know the answer to any of those questions, so I have trouble pointing in any direction to say this is where we ought to go.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess I can just provide some input. From a traffic accident is typically at intersections to our major routes. I think one of the things we hear a lot, specifically through report a concern or concerned citizens calling in, is that within our within our residential, thank you, within our residential areas, 50 kilometers seems to be fast. When you're standing on the street and someone goes by 50, it appears to be fast. So we get a lot of feedback that the speeds are too high within our residential areas. One of the things we can look at, and based on the feedback here around the table, is to go forward with our traffic bylaw with our speeds similar to what they are, and through the development of Vision Zero, if there's an appetite to look at changing that, we can definitely amend the bylaw at that time as well. So that's at council's direction.
Yeah, I would agree with what Director Knopf said there in regards to 50 is quick in residential. I know myself, I'm always watching down certainly below 50. And you know, just safety of kids, especially in the residential side, you never know where they're bouncing out of. So, but I do believe it's a great idea to take a look at this Vision Zero and get that third party recommendation, so to speak.
Okay. So I think the general consensus is we'd like to see the Vision Zero and then come back to this and review it at that time and see what kind of suggestions. Councilor Baker?
Well, Your Worship, I guess it's funny this kind of showed up. We have different types of subdivisions in the residential areas of the city. Some are very crooked streets with traffic, bumper to bumper to bumper on both sides of roads, along with the basketball courts, because they don't have any boulevards or on their streets, and you can hardly pass vehicles on some of those streets. Where there's other residential streets that maybe built 30 years ago, they're straight. They have 6-foot boulevards or 8-foot boulevards, and you have some room of vision. So there is quite a difference between residential areas within the city, no question. And we've built every street now, it's got 3 curves in it. It seems that that's all you're doing is going around corners, so especially if you're trying to find somebody. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comments? All right, then we'll shift to 6.3 because that's going to have a very similar but different look to our streets. So I'll turn it over to you.
You betcha. The same principles of the traffic bylaw that we're working on. Of course, the two key components within that are truck routes and dangerous goods routes. We currently don't have anything in any bylaw dealing with the dangerous goods routes. We follow provincial standards there, but I'll get to that next. But I want to talk about truck routes first on this side of things. Again, this is more regulating where trucks can be within our municipality. And of course, this is what is in our current bylaw, traffic bylaw that we have as per designated truck routes within the city. Of course, this does not regulate those moving van type trucks or anything like that. If they have a destination, they can go off these routes, but these are the designated routes where trucks can actually be on moving throughout the city. Going off into the future side of things, go to the next map, please. Yeah, okay, on the recommended route. The big thing on this one here is, of course, looking at where trucks need to be, and of course, between the old map and this map, we definitely have more roads identified, especially in industrial areas, because that's where most of these things are originating from, especially for the oil field workers and that kind of things like that we have for the type of work that we have in this region. But the other big thing is the removal of Highway 17 from Highway 16 to 52nd Street, so our downtown corridor. Not wanting to have those trucks within our downtown. So that's a big key difference within this map to the previous. The outlying roads that we see there outside of our boundaries, especially off 12th Street and off 67th Street and over to Range Road 14, those are included in this map. And again, this will take some conversation with our regional partners as well, is that road or that road segments are already in place as part of Murray and Ring Road, which was a development that was brought forward about maybe 8 years ago. and also our high-low road corridor that we have. And the high-low corridor is, of course, those high-lows that go through along Highway 16 and be able to get around that CP rail overpass that we have on the east side of the city. So this is in principle what we're looking at as potential truck routes, but again, we're looking at some ideologies here. Again, we've got to work with what we have for industry in the city. That is a very key thing because we've got a lot of dangerous goods, period. No matter what it is, every oil tanker is a dangerous good. So we are very inundated with that type of a commodity, I guess, in reality. Yeah. And going off from this, very, very related, similarly related, is dangerous good routes. Of course, today, this is not in any of our bylaws, so we're following our provincial guidelines, which of course is Highway 17 and Highway 16. And anything other than that, yeah, it's just not written in any bylaws currently. Of course, with the proposed side of things, the next one is really simplifying this as best as we can and trying to keep it out of our central core. Maybe not. Again, this is just proposed. Again, utilizing that Meridian Ring Road principle that we've got set up, that high-low corridor as well, but getting those dangerous goods to use our 40th Avenue, our 62nd Street, our 67th Street, our 70th Avenue, 12 streets. The two in blue that I'm showing there as potential, and we're saying potential today just because of the growth that we're seeing and the complexities that we're seeing with those, especially on 70th Avenue, south of 44th Street, with the two commercial developments right there. Do we really want to be having this type of traffic going through that congestion points, per se, and just push them up a little farther? In theory, they are arteries, and that's what they're intended for, but as development happens, they're getting a little more complex. 52nd Street is as a future, only because the road, basically by the operation center, is not fully developed all the way up to 75th Avenue. Once that happens, I see that as being a key road that could come through the city as well. So again, it's more of a discussion point, and to kick off this is a potential. I see some community engagement side of things in here. A lot of talking with the industry. We've done a bit of that conversation as part of our transportation master plan, but only to a smaller type scale. And so some of this kind of some of these ideologies came from the TMP, but we're just kind of kickstarted and getting it involved in this new bylaw that we're proposing.
Sorry, what do we define the truck route as? Is it like tandem axle or over a certain weight access? What is our definition of that?
It would be anything over, anything over above a standard car, truck.
Okay.
You're looking at a single axle to dual axle to A-train to B-trains,
Right.
that type of things like that. Yeah.
So you said this won't apply to like DHL or Purelator or,
No.
right,
Yep.
because they're delivered.
Yeah, you're correct in that, because they have deliveries, they have points of destination, they are allowed to go throughout the city, but if they're just traveling through or around type scenarios, they would have to be on the roads.
And garbage trucks, obviously, it's not going to apply to them because they can go,
Yep.
we need to, okay.
Councilor Baker.
Thank you, Richard. In the past, there's been discussions about the size vehicles. And we had, and I can't remember how many, but dozens and dozens and dozens of 1 tons. That's the dualies with the welder in the back. And the debate was they shouldn't be in residential areas, they shouldn't be on residential streets. Well, we had many people go to work in 1 tons. So keep that in mind when you're saying an average pickup truck like most of us drive and a 1-ton truck, you better consider that one because it's going to affect a ton of people getting to and from work. So whether it's an issue or not, in my mind it's not and never has been. It's the diesels running at 5 in the morning could be a bit of a problem. The other issue is to have a dangerous good route where you have to cross the tracks to get onto it or get off of it. Or would you be looking at 2? If you're coming in from the north and you want to go west or east, you would follow a dangerous good route and cross the tracks on the east side of the west side of the city. And if you were heading somewhere on the south side of the tracks, you would have a dangerous good route that would not cross the road tracks. Would that be the thought process?
The thought process on the dangerous bridge roads was to have those vehicles at our boundaries, specific at our boundaries. If they're heading from north to south, they're gonna have to truck across a bridge.
Oh, exactly.
No matter what type scenarios.
But you're not gonna, the east-west truck wouldn't have to jog around and go north around the city.
No, that would be up to them where they choose. I would say that we would propose both routes be available to them, not just one.
Okay, good. Good.
Councilor Forrest.
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, just to speak to one of Ken's points, and this is something I heard from an engineer once upon a time, that not all roads are created equal as far as their load bearing. So the roads that you're identifying here can handle the heavier weight vehicles, but a normal residential street wears and tears a lot faster because of larger vehicles, correct?
That is correct, Councillor. Locals, of course, are designed to accommodate that residential loads. So the number of vehicles and the type of vehicles that you'll see on a consistent state. Same with the collectors. They upscale that design just a little bit because there's going to be more traffic on them and a little more loading. But as soon as you get into the arterials, you're looking to be supporting those big semis and the loads associated with them.
And this is getting a little off topic, but I'll try and get round back. So just as a general statement, and I don't know what other communities you would know of, but does Lloydminster, in terms of their street improvement program, have a lot of troubles with needing to repair roads more regularly and more significantly because of heavy traffic in residential areas? Heavy traffic as in heavy vehicles in residential areas?
It really depends on those key factors of what heavy equipment is actually on them. I'm referring to more like one of our industrial areas. Of course, you're always going to see that, but the standards of that road may not be up to our arterials, right? But where we get into our residentials, you don't see those heavy vehicles in there, only for like a moving type vehicle or whatever else, or somebody misdirected themselves and have to go down there because of it.
Okay.
So you're not getting that many loads or that much traffic going through that in that aspect of things. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but by having the truck route or the GGR, we're telling them if you are there, well, we can actually fine you appropriately for it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, just to get back on topic, I have a quick question. As far as 52nd Ave, just because there is several railway crossings there, if that were to become a dangerous goods route and passed all the way through on 52nd, would it be up to the railways to be putting up crossing arms? Because the only concern I have is that, you know, a lot of these dangerous goods have to stop at all uncontrolled railway crossings. Therefore, it would not necessarily be the most efficient way to get through the city if there's several stops of every vehicle carrying dangerous goods if it's uncontrolled.
You're very correct in that analysis. That'll be one of the pieces that we need to iron out specifically, is those kind of parameters, because there is a few unmarked crossings there for sure. And I think that's just a piece of the puzzle that we're still trying to identify exactly the benefit of that street versus going all the way around. But yeah, it's very key.
Just in terms of responsibility, is it the city's responsibility to have crossings there, or would it be the railway, or would we have to kind of work with them to see if they wouldn't mind putting one up?
A little bit of both, but most of the crossings that we have and regulated with lights and arms have all been initiated from the railway side of things at this point in time. It's not saying that we can't though, but most have come from that side of it, and Transport Canada in their reviews of the type of traffic and the numbers of traffic that cross those crossings.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
I don't know if you can answer this, Chief Executive Engineer, but I believe those three crossings in particular are actually private crossings held by a large industrial organization in this community. So that falls into a whole different category again, because I believe those are private crossings that only have to be marked by the signs and no other flashing lights, and that would be at their discretion to upgrade that.
Your Worship, I would assume that would be in conversation with the line owner and the property that it's servicing, so CP and and their client. The city does provide contribution when intersections are improved, such as 75th Ave was just done recently, although some of the funding would come from the railway, the city would also be responsible for some of that contribution as well.
I certainly have heard from a few citizens about the dangerous goods route. My concern as I look at the future, and this is just my thought, is how do you get those dangerous goods to the services that they may need while they're in the community? Because none of those routes have fuel or there are certain fuel at certain points in the community, but many of our truck stops are located within the city limit. Inside that square that would be a proposal. Certainly that would have a detrimental effect to drivers being able to eat and fuel up, rest stops and things like that. And it's one of the challenges that we'll need to certainly consider with administration going forward, because the nature of those fellows, we see it already existing on 16 today. There's trucks pulled over on a regular basis at various hours of the day and night for someone to run in and grab something from one of the fast food restaurants. They're pulling 253-foot trailers, which could contain, being vans, can contain dangerous goods, that they're parked on 16 highway because they simply don't have the ability to turn in today. And to move them outside of the city, I don't know if we're going to change anything or improve it. That's just a concern I see, especially on 16. 17, we can discuss that more, but certainly 16 is going to put some challenges on us. Councilor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to say that one of the things I am really in favor of moving forward, or in favor of if we are moving forward with a dangerous goods route type of activity, is a lot of engagement specifically. I could even just, from an anecdote, my dad he's a propane driver who goes back and forth several times a day. So I talked to him about dangerous goods routes just once, and he told me everything I needed to know about them. And gave me probably a 45-minute earful of the best ways the city could do it, and I'm sure there's other drivers out there that likely could provide some decent insight, as well as communicating with business owners of these services specifically for truckers and the dangerous goods. Yeah, thank you.
Just one thing on the dangerous goods roads. For me, I classify that as more of goods moving from one side of the city to the other side of the city, like through, actually going through the community. When they come into the community, they would be looked at using the truck route side of things, but and they would have a permit associated with that or whatever else showing that, but the dangerous goods roads would be more of a movement from east-west, north-south type scenarios.
No, I agree with you 100%. And I think that, like I say, that based on the nature of our community, how it's evolving and growing, and services that those individuals require, because at the end of the day, we are a designated fuel stop or whatever, however it looks at it, the price of fuel reflects it every day. Since we pay more than both sides of the border, the communities, it's one of those things that's a challenge that we certainly need to look at to ensure that, because I don't want to see us move the dangerous goods routes and then we're just going to have more traffic accidents on the perimeter because we're going to have trucks stopped here, there, and wherever. It's going to take some engagement of several different organizations and several people that have a vested interest in that business.
Yeah, as the information report shows, there could be improvements that need to be made associated with the road once it's established, just to provide that ease of movement and stuff like that too, right? And the other kind of criteria, or other criteria associated with the DGR, truck routes, we have full control and authority over. On the DGR side of things, we have to be communication with the two ministries in Alberta and Saskatchewan. Alberta a little less for the critical side of things, but Saskatchewan definitely directly with the ministry on that one.
Councilor Mayor.
Thank you. Well, for instance, 12th Street, there's probably a mile of houses or 2 miles of houses on 12th Street already, on one side.
Yeah.
So, we move it from here to there. Several years ago, the two provinces decided they were going to build a bypass around the city of Lloydminster. And they were gazetting, I believe, property at 4 Mile Road, which is the gun club road for anybody that knows. They get your book out of here. And you know what's happened to that? It was going to be built in 10 years or whatever. That's probably 15 years ago. So I guess you really have to look at what a dangerous goods route is really supposed to be. If your house is backed up to it, faces it, is there a difference? I don't think so. So there's businesses and houses on most of those streets, as that map shows, within the city boundaries. So do we have a clear, free bypass? 25th Street was going to be a bypass 25 years ago. And look at it now. Highway 16 was going to be a highway with hotels and motels and gas stations on it 35 years ago. And now we got everything in the world on it. We've turned it into a commercial street. And so, as a famous minister of highways said in Alberta, if I had to go around here again, I'd build it 10 miles away and gazette it for 20 miles each way to get rid of Gasoline Alley. So it's a big challenge, huge challenge. Where you put a dangerous goods routes that's safe and not have it developed around it.
You just have to look at the Anthony Henday in Edmonton. You look at the Regina bypass that's being built currently in Regina, Saskatchewan, and the work that's being done in Saskatoon after they built Circle Drive. It doesn't matter what urban center you look at. This is an ongoing challenge for traffic, and this council, we can set some direction, but we'll never solve that problem until, like you say, someone with much bigger pockets and have the ability to change things. And I know that even within the community, the sense I've got from business owners, they're concerned. They value 16 highway. 16 highway driving right through town has a huge economic benefit to this community. Touch wood, we haven't had a significant dangerous goods issue for some time, and we've still got the railroads. No matter what we take out for trucks, we still have the railroads, and that's not going to change either. Unless somebody ponies up with an immense amount. Well, I guess like they say, money will solve all the problems, so in this case. But no, I think that we've got some good discussion that we need to have between council, administration, and the residents, because I think that's, at the end of the day, that's we need people's input. Because we need to realize that if we move every big truck out of town, it's going to change the dramatics, because I think of 1, 2, 5 employers alone that are based in this city inside that blue line and green box, that those trucks are still marked with dangerous goods after they're empty, because they fall into that, as the chief executive engineer indicated. Every trailer that hauls oil and gas is a dangerous good in this city, empty or full. So I think that we're going to need to take some hard looks at this and go from there. But with some discussion with administration, we can certainly look at it, and maybe we can start with potentially an open house, or let's see what people are thinking.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and that's what I was going to recommend we bring back, is we'll work with our communications team to come up with a plan to do some community engagement on these three items, and we'll do that before we kick that off to Chief.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you, Chief Executive Engineer. I believe, unless there's anything else I've missed, that's everything on the agenda. I'll look to the media for any inquiries.
Thank you, Your Worship. Today we have Adam, your address for yourself.
All right. Then I'll ask for an adjournment, recess. Councillor Buckingham, seconded by Councillor Fagin. With the question, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.